Good day to the 7 continents of the world: Antarctica, Australia, Europe, Africa, North America, South America. We're here. It is Atlantic Discourse. It's a Friday tonic, State of the Nation on the Atlantic Discourse channel. Today, we have another scholar, a very erudite one at that. And you know, that's a stock in our trade. We like to bring people that have earned their epaulets, people that are true to power, people that say the way it is, people that you can't call them morally bankrupt in any way, shape, trait, or form. Today, we are bringing to you Reverend Father George Omaku Ehusani. Welcome to Atlanta Discourse.
Thank you, Ade, and congratulations on all you do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Well, you have a very big resume, so I'll just try and summarize it. I'm sure you're not new to a lot of people my generation that have read some of your work, but Father George is an accomplished theologian, author, preacher, teacher, administrator, musician, and social commentator, an activist, and above all, dedicated priest of the Most High. Well, he has been a standout achiever in many engagements, applying his remarkable talent and enormous energy to dream of ideas and initiatives that have substantially impacted many lives in a lot of diverse ways. So that summarizes it. I don't want to read it all, but you get to know it. Okay. So, sir, let's cut the chase. Our first question for you today, it's bordering on you worked closely with Father Matthew Kukah in the Catholic Secretariat. What were some of the key challenges and opportunities you faced during those periods? Is that thing you would like to share with us?
Well, those were very crucial years for Nigeria. Kukah became Secretary General early in 1994, and I joined him late in 1994, same year. And you'll know that the annulled election happened in 1993. Sure. So about 1.5 years after that event, I joined Bishop Kukah. Actually, Bishop Kukah sourced for me to join him. We had known for many years, we have been friends, but then when he saw the articles I was writing in the Light newspaper, the newspaper was the diocesan newspaper of my diocese, Lokoja, and I was the editor, and I was writing editorials every month because from 1991 I had been involved, from Babangida's era, I've been involved in social commentary and trying to bring some moral, ethical content to national discourse. So Kukah used to read some of them, and he said, look, why don't you come to Lagos so that some of these things that you have been publishing in this small newspaper in Lokoja, so that it can get into the Guardian, into Punch, into Concord, and so on and so forth. And then a few things happened. I was invited to the Vatican to give a talk to the bishops of the world, which we call the Synod, General Synod of Bishops for Africa. This was in April 1994. So beyond Bishop Kukah, Father Kukah wanting to have me at that time, we also had the bishops of Nigeria who attended the Synod in 1994. After I made my presentation, they said, who is this priest? They want to have him at the Catholic Secretariat. To cut the long story short, by September 1994, I was appointed to join Bishop Kukah as the Deputy Secretary General. Kukah was Secretary General. So we lived together for 6 years, and we worked together. And at every meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, we discussed national issues. And then he wrote articles. We closed at 5, for example, or 6. And then he went to his room and came out with an article. I went to my room and came out with an article. And usually it's on national issues. I remember in those days you had I'm still in touch with the person who was Sunday Guardian correspondent, and then the person who was Punch correspondent for religion, and the person who was Champion correspondent. They used to come every Monday or Tuesday, and they say, what do you have for us? Because there will either be an article from Kukah or there's an article from me. I mean, 1 or 2 times a week there was something. And but what were we doing? Why were we writing articles? it was our own contribution to the national discourse during the heat of the military rule. And I was in Lagos, already in Lagos, in 1995 when Ken Saro-Wiwa was murdered. This was November 5, 1995. And actually what that did to me, because I followed the story of the Ogoni 5 and the Ogoni 9, when Ken Saro-Wiwa was viciously murdered, that woke me up. That just woke me up, and I became more committed, I would say, and joined Father Kukah, as it were, in his own campaign, which had been on. I mean, he started dealing with governance issues from in his mustard seed writings in the New Nigeria long before. Anyway, so I joined him, and then we began our campaigns. At some point during the heat of the Abacha regime, when it was difficult for members of civil society to even hold a meeting without the SSS, as it was known then, going to disband them and arrest them and lock them up, they were meeting. At some point, we were meeting at the Catholic Secretariat at our house. So we had a lot of the Nadeko people of that time, Clem Nwankwo, Olisa Agbakoba, the civil society, the pioneering civil society people, Olisa Agbakoba, Clem Nwankwo, Pat Utomi, of the concerned professionals, and a number of others, Abduloro and so on. They used to meet at the Catholic Secretariat in our place, because even Ruben Abati, they used to be there because that was an unlikely place. So we didn't have much of visitation of SSS, and so a lot of the planning. I mean, I remember when we had a national conference that we were planning. We held it in Ikeja to plan what are the strategies to get rid of military rule. That was not long after Colonel Abubakar Umar resigned from the military and others, and he joined us, and we had a lot of the key names. Unfortunately, I didn't see many of those names in Tinubu's list of the people he honored in his June 12th anniversary award of honors to those he calls heroes of June 12th. Well, but I mean, I have not seen anything in the horizon to say that this is party time and for us to be awarding national honors to ourselves for what we did, because we have not moved. We have actually not moved an inch from the June 12th debacle. The same thing that all those people who are on the streets of Lagos and the streets of several cities in this country fighting in 1993, we are still fighting today. We are still fighting for democracy. We are still fighting for the rule of the people. We are still the wishes of the people to reign. That's what we are still fighting today. What we have today is definitely not democracy.
Wow.
It is not the rule of the people, by the people, for the people. Many Nigerians are convinced that those occupying power today did not win election clean and clear. I mean, we saw what happened in Lagos when Nigerians whose fathers were born in Lagos were told to go home. I mean, for me, honestly, that image, what happened in Lagos in March 2023, when Nigerians who were born in Lagos were asked to go home, when people like you, people who look like you, are they by face, were brutalized in Lagos because they were taught to be Igbo.
I know quite a couple of people it happened to. So yeah.
So we went through what we went through under military rule, from Babangida to Abacha, and then how many years after we were faced with that kind of situation. Then, as far as I'm concerned, it's 2 steps backwards. I mean, 1 step forward, 3 steps backwards. So,
Go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to ask a follow-up question, but when you finish, I'll ask it.
so as far as I'm concerned, the kind of preoccupation that a number of us had, and that Kukah and I had at the Catholic Secretariat. By the way, it was not just Kukah and I. We had what the late Father John Ofei. Late Father John Ofei was actually in charge of our Justice and Peace Commission department. We had the President Bishop Emmanuel Badejo of Oyo, who was with us too. We had a number of us. We had a whole team who were not just working for the church, but quite concerned about the country and where the country was headed. And so we spent a lot of time. I mean, when in recent years, I think 2022, I decided to put together some of my articles in the Guardian, in the Punch, in Concord, and so on and so forth. I discovered that it was an average of at least one article a week that I wrote in those days. And then we also set up what we call the Catholic Secretariat Forum. And we met every month for 7 years, from 1999 to 2007, before I left there, discussing our national issues. I will end by declaring this. It is from our discussions in the Catholic Secretariat Forum, which we held one Sunday every month, that the discussion about the Oputa panel, by then I had become Secretary General, Kukah had become Secretary of the Oputa panel, and this was about 2003 or 4. And we were talking about what happened to the report of the Oputa panel. We were told, oh, the Babangida secured a court order not to allow the reports to be published. By the grace of God, I decided that I will get that report published if I can get hold of it. And I found those who had put the report together, the consultants, and I obtained it, and I called together about 23 civil society groups and said, do you agree for me to go ahead and publish this report on your behalf? And they said yes. So I got them to sign that it is on their behalf that I was going ahead to publish this, and I did. This was in 2005. And incidentally, the copy, that is the executive summary of the Oputa panel that we published, and some of the annexures in 2005 that was published by Catholic Secretariat of Nigeria, are the only copies of the Oputa panel that are extant, that are available to today. Meaning that for 2 years, Nigerians sat before their television every night to listen to Oputa panel and all the witnesses, and nothing came of it except what we were able to publish at the Catholic Secretariat. I mean, for me, it's a commentary on how terrible our situation is in this country. So this is a summary of what we tried to do. Unfortunately, we can't celebrate anything because we are back in the trenches. We are back to where we started, talking about how do we build a nation, how do we work for credible leadership, and so on.
Wow. So I mean, I've read some of your work, especially most of those articles you wrote, and I have to confess that I was a big fan of it at that time. But the question I have for you is this. You said we take 2-3 steps forward, about 10 steps backward. There's this vicious circle. It's like things are getting worse than it is. I mean, being a scholar yourself, I'm sure you've read about what the Catholic Church did in the entire Latin America, South America, fighting for independence, even in probably more recent time, Poland, you know. Do you think the church is doing enough in Nigeria?
Well, I mean, when you say the church, I mean, the church is very...
I mean, I'm not just talking Catholic Church, I'm talking...
Yeah, I know, the church is, that's why I'm saying the church is quite a big enterprise now. And...
why I ask, sorry to interject, why I ask is there have been statistics that have said that they've killed more Christians in Nigeria in the last 5-10 years than anywhere else in the world, you know. So one would expect that it's logical that the Christian body as a whole, the PFN, the Catholic Secretariat, the ECHO, and all the denomination can, so to say, as the umbrella body, will be more vocal, will rise to the occasion. And some people call these things genocide, and I've tried to look at the definition of the word, and it's not far from what is happening, because it's a perennial problem from Maitasini days, Lakurawa, Boko Haram, Fulani herdsmen. It's a recurring. So that's why I asked, is the church doing enough? If not, what else can be done to nip all these killings in the bud?
Well, why I am a bit wary when people ask, is the church doing enough? Reason is that there is not one entity that is called the church. There are elements of the church that are doing more than their fair share. So there are elements within the church that are doing much more than their fair share of work towards a better society. But then there are also elements of the church who are in bed with people in power. And because they are in bed with people in power, we don't expect much from them. So we long ago we lost the ability to speak to speak about the church in monolithic sense. So we have to be speaking about elements of the church, members of the church, and the orientations within the church. I believe that a lot of people in the church are doing a lot of good work, but also the church is a basket full of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Also, we have people within the church for whom this is the best of times. This is the best of times because their patron, their brother, their friend, they are the ones in power. So this is the best of time. The level of awareness, political awareness, moral awareness, spiritual awareness across board in the church is not the same. So whereas there are people who look at this situation and they say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. There were people who bear Christian names and who are going around saying it is our turn. When Emilio Khan was the theme song of the elections. And I was shocked, but then they can't see that the book of Proverbs, chapter 29, verse 2 says that when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people groan. There is a level of blindness that we suffer in this society, whereby a number of people, when their friend or their relation or their tribesman, when they are the ones in power, they don't see anything wrong. That's blindness, that's idiocy, that's stupidity, but that's a disease that is quite rife in this country. And that is one of the reasons why we have not been able to make progress. Okay, as a lot, you mentioned what appears to be persecution of Christians in this country. You mentioned what appears to be major persecution, massive killing. Because I mean, if the statistics are showing that the most difficult place, dangerous place to be a Christian today is Nigeria, then it is worth taking a close look as to what is happening. How can Nigeria be the most dangerous place to be a Christian today? I mean, we are now being compared to Afghanistan and Pakistan and these places, whereas we claim that Nigeria is 50% Christian, 50% Muslim. So it means that under these circumstances, we are supposed to put our head together as Christians and say, what is happening to us? Now, and then our social mission. Not long ago, I had an interview with Dove Television, the television owned by Redeemed Church, and I could send you that interview. And then it was a struggle to explain to my interviewer my social engagement. He didn't seem to understand that I am a priest doesn't mean that I am only sent to Christians. That I am a priest doesn't mean that my work is limited to those who accept Jesus Christ. That our social engagement, it was a bit difficult for him to have the kind of vision that Kukah and I have always had, and that many Catholics have always had, to say, as it is said in our the Synod of Bishops, of Catholic Bishops in 1971, to say, work for justice. An engagement in the transformation of society is an integral part of the mission of Christ. An integral part, meaning it's not an optional extra. The work we do to uplift the status of the poor, to protect widows and orphans, to ensure good governance, to ensure democratic participation. Is not an optional extra, meaning after you have preached the good news and you have converted people, then when you have time, you do those. No, our document, the document that guides our social engagement, says it is an integral part of the mission of Christ. Christ, who says, as you did it to the least of my brethren, you did it to me, meaning you fed the hungry, you clothed the naked, you brought home the homeless, etc., etc. And he says, as you did it for my brethren, you did it, the least of my brethren, you did it for me. Now, we see God as the father of orphans, the defender of the widow, and the friend of the poor. If that is your definition of the Almighty God, then unwholesome situations such as we have in this country call for Christians, not just Christian leaders, but all Christians to be involved in working towards the emergence of a better society, in working to demolish, to dismantle oppressive structures, undemocratic structures, rogue systems. Yes, rogue systems. What we have in place today, there is nothing short of a rogue system, where as we just discussed in the workshop I'm coming from, where one individual can decide the fate of a party, because an individual can steal enough money, enough state resources to be able to get people together, register a political party, then hold their registration cards and mobilize these so-called members of the party as he deserves. And today he's in APC, tomorrow he's in PDP, next tomorrow he's in Labour Party, and he decides that I am going to join the other party. If you are not ready to come with me, I sack you. Now, a situation where we find ourselves, number one, that is very far from what is called democracy. When one person can decide the fate of the whole government of a state, it's a rogue system. It's a system that we must dismantle and have democracy growing from the grassroots. Have people register for political parties, pay dues from which the political party conducts its affairs, and disallow one individual or two or a few individuals owning political parties, as is the situation today. So it means that to change that system is part of the work of any serious Christian, because when Jesus says, I have come that they may have life and have it more abundantly, what is stopping Nigerians from having abundant life? It is rogue leadership. It is leadership without integrity. It is a gang of rogues, thieves, brigands that have taken the reins of power and are enslaving the people. So if any Christian that is going to go out to the world and do the work of Christ, apart from preaching for people to believe Christ, the next thing is, well, the system we are living in does not glorify God. In the early church, there's somebody called Saint Irenaeus, and he famously said that the glory of God is the human person fully alive. The glory of God is the human person, meaning that the human person that is living guttural life, the human person that is living dehumanized, at the level of dehumanizing poverty, the human person that is oppressed, that is living a life of slavery and so on, it does not glorify God. You need a certain quality of life to glorify God, especially when it is not nature that has pushed us into where we are, especially when it is human beings whose evil machinations have pushed us where we are. Then those who are children of God must be daily involved in working towards dismantling that kind of system. That's why some of us have been involved, and I just wish that many Christians can see it as an integral part of our Christian mission to be involved in dismantling unjust systems and letting evolve more just, more wholesome, more godly systems for the running of our society. Let me add that you and I know that Nigeria has no business. Nigerians have no business living the beggarly life we're living now. Nigerians have no big business being so poor and having $1 becoming 1,700 naira. The reason why we are where we are is a succession of rogue leaderships. It's a succession of corrupt, inefficient, ineffective leaders that have no clue as to what to do to lift the people out of poverty. That's why we're where we are. Otherwise, we are naturally blessed. Look at Singapore. It has nothing, no natural resource of any kind. Look at Dubai. It has nothing. But good leaders have turned those places to the heavens that they are. So I will end by saying, I am guided in my preoccupation by Proverbs chapter 29 verse 2 that says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked rule, the people groan. It is the same Proverbs chapter 29 in verse 18 that says, where there is no vision, the people do perish. There is no vision in this country today, because some translations of that same verse, 29 verse 18 says, where there is no leadership integrity, the people do perish. So we are perishing on account of bad leadership. So we must focus a lot of our attention in raising good leaders and in daily challenging our inept and oppressive and clueless office holders, so that good leaders may emerge to turn our circumstances around. And I am a believer that within 5 years, this country can be turned around with the right caliber of people. Within 5 years, Nigerians are illustrious, Nigerians are industrious, Nigerians are hardworking. So I believe that within 5 years, from all of you from across the world will cooperate and see this country turn around to an enviable place.
Amen. we're all looking forward to that. Let me ask you this. Everybody has said, I've been to some courses where they put a lot of emphasis on culture. Some will even say culture will eat strategy for breakfast, And in Nigeria today, based on what I know, based on what you've said, almost everybody agree that it's like there's an inherent culture of dishonesty in the land. So my question is, are the leaders of Nigeria a true reflection of who the Nigerians really are? Because after all said and done, every election cycle, they share money to people. 5,000, 10,000, in some cases 20,000, depending on how important that election is. And people take this money, money that can't even feed them for probably right now, maybe a day, due to the inflation. And the people come in, the politicians come in, pilfer, steal, do whatever they have to do. So is it turn by turn Nigeria Limited, like somebody called it? Is the culture a problem? Is that who we really are? If you understand what I'm trying to say.
I used to feel very insulted when I hear the statement, a people deserve the kind of leadership they get.
Yeah, I've read that.
I used to feel very insulted. The reason is that I know many fantastic, wonderful Nigerians from north to south, from east to west, who do not deserve what we are seeing. I know many wonderful Nigerians who don't deserve 5%, 1% of what we are experiencing in Nigeria. So to that extent, if people get the kind of the leadership they deserve, it's for me very. However, leaders have a responsibility to point the attention of their people in the right direction. I've been involved for the last 17 years. What I've been doing is leadership. I set up the Lux Terra Leadership Foundation because all my years as Secretary General of the Catholic Church gave me a lot of opportunities of programs and courses and meetings with leaders and about leadership here and there across the world. And I came to see that our problem as Nigerians is number one, leadership, number two, leadership, number three, leadership. We had a president in Africa called Julius Nyerere in Tanzania. Julius Nyerere used to be called Mwalimu. He was a teacher. Mwalimu means teacher. He used to have radio or television programs where he educated the people on values for nation building. It is the responsibility, to complain about the poor truck pusher who is collecting 5,000 from the politician that has come to look for votes. Well, the guy needs the 5,000 because he has no guarantee of food tomorrow, next tomorrow. He needs it. Why do we impoverish our people to the extent that 5,000 means such a difference? Nigeria, like I said earlier, is not so poor. For 5,000 naira, I don't know how many cents in dollars, for 5,000 naira to now mean so much to the people that they are bamboozled and they vote for somebody who gave them 5,000 naira. It is the responsibility of leaders to educate people on deferred gratification rather than instant gratification. It is the responsibility of leaders to educate people on what they are to expect from those who superintend their affairs. What has happened, which unfortunately is now being turned against the people, is that the people have been so reduced, so impoverished, so pauperized to such a level of dehumanization. People are suffering dehumanizing level of poverty today that is unbelievable. The kind of poverty that you jingle some coins before them and they run after you. Now, that level of dehumanization is unacceptable in a country as blessed as this. You ask yourself, how come that you cannot go to Singapore, that you cannot go to Botswana, that you cannot go to some of these countries that are working and flash or whatever their equivalent in their country is, and they vote for you? They were blessed at some point with good leaders that set certain standards for them. Seretse Khama, the first president of Botswana, set a standard for them that till today they are benefiting from. The painful thing is that our first set of leaders, who were very good in their own way, unfortunately, they were regional champions. They were regional leaders. They never succeeded, and I'm not saying it's their fault, but they never succeeded in getting a national appeal. Wonderful as Awolowo was, he was not accepted nationally. Wonderful as Ahmadu Bello was, he was not accepted nationally. Wonderful as Azikiwe was, he was not accepted nationally. So, unlike other countries, unlike the Botswana that I have mentioned, unlike even Ghana with Kwame Nkrumah, we are not able to say this is the father of our nation. One person that said this is the father of our nation, respect across the board. So that is one of the failures we have had. Obasanjo had the opportunity to become a new father of the nation with the coming of democracy, but he failed woefully, especially because of the alleged third term bid. He would have had an opportunity to rebuild a new Nigeria and to be the father of a new Nigeria, but he failed. And we have not succeeded in having such a person. And I'm saying such a leader, when we do get such a leader, and I pray we get such a leader soon, such a leader will encapsulate in himself or herself the values that the nation will aspire to, that everyone in the nation will aspire to. People will be studying in school, in elementary school, in secondary school, in university. They will be studying his life or her life and the qualities that he or she has, which also will approximate to the qualities that we want Nigeria to uphold, that we want the nation to uphold. Now, that is where we failed. Because if you look at Konrad Adenauer after the war in Germany, the one who was the first president after the war, you see the kind of life he lived, you see the kind of values he had, and you see that the generation that came after him were just trying to copy him, right? Now, Garibaldi in Italy, and you look at even before Konrad Adenauer, Bismarck, he succeeded in uniting what they used to call the barbarian tribes, the barbarians, bring them together to create a modern state called Germany. Now, we are not yet blessed with a leadership that is able to unite the disparate groups in this country. That is why you hear of all kinds of flashpoints in this country, because what we have are Yorubas and Igbos and Tiv and Ishekiri and Jukun. We hardly have Nigerians. We will be needing someone to help, or a group of people to help us build a Nigerian image, a set of values that we will subscribe to make us Nigerians. This is what has been missing. For me, the issue of people collecting 5,000, 10,000 naira and voting, it's like we're in the jungle, and what is at play is jungle ethics. And I do not blame those poor people who may be dying tomorrow if they don't collect the 5,000 today. They are not in a position, they are not in my kind of position, and are they in your kind of position? Because you will not collect 5,000, I will not collect 5,000. But they are in such, there are people who, when they have malaria, they don't have money. In fact, today in Nigeria, antibiotics, a set of antibiotics to cure some infection is about 25,000 naira. And there are people who don't earn 25,000 naira in the month. So if they have a child who is infected, who has infection, they need 25,000, and some politician comes around and throws around 10,000 naira, they will grab it. Not because they don't want a better future, but because the human being has an instinct, a natural instinct to stay alive. So at least to stay alive till tomorrow. That's what is happening.
You know, I mean, I've been moved by what you're saying, but the problem I have in all this is that, you know, like I've said it on this program so many times, that in the past, our elections were free, but were not fair. Now they're not free and they are not fair. You know, so to have those kind of leaders with the requisite attitude, behavior, how do we arrive at that point? Let me remind you of something you said in your book, The Years of Eating Locust, which I will refer to later in this program. You said, those who champion the cause of justice, who raise a voice of dissent at the triumph of mediocrity, and those who raise an alarm at the institutionalization of violence, are regularly intimidated, harassed, and coerced into submission or beaten to a retreat. That means that people, the people that have these qualities, you know, the dedicated people, you know, they are beaten into submission. And we have seen in our elections that they're not free, they're not fair. So how do you advise? You're a scholar, I'm sure you've written books on it, you talk about it almost every time.
Yeah.
How do we activate it? Is it the office of the citizen that will have to be recalibrated? Or, I mean, I don't understand, because it's a recurring problem. And I think it's a general consensus now that we have had failure of leadership. And like Professor Patutomi said, he said, it does look like Obasanjo is the best leader we've ever had, which is a shame in itself, considering the fact that, you know, up from 1960 till date, you know, we've not had anybody exceptional. That Obasanjo is the most exceptional, which in its case, in its own was an abysmal thing. So what approach do we have to re-engage? How do we go about it? What role does the people have to play? Or maybe the church or the traditional institution? What's the way forward, sir?
Well, we need a lot of networking. What you are doing is you are on the right path. You're contributing your quota, which is wonderful. We need thousands of efforts like your own. Thousands, literally thousands of efforts like your own. You need a network. I don't know how many followers you have, but you need programs like this with thousands of followers. 12,000, wonderful, congratulations. So we need a network like your own with thousands and tens of thousands of followers. And we then need people like you networking with others like you, so that we are sharing information. The point is that before now, Nigerians ignored politics. Before now, responsible Nigerians, we considered politics a dirty game, which it is in many ways. And then responsible Nigerians stayed away from that dirty game. Unfortunately, there doesn't appear to be another way of moving the society forward, of organizing society without politics. You go into business, the politicians will mess you up. You go into corporate, a company, corporate enterprise, the politicians will mess you up. You go into any enterprise you go into, the politicians will mess you up. So it means we have no choice but to encourage all the well-educated, well-trained, those who have moral sense of morality, sense of ethics. We have to encourage them to become card-carrying members of political parties that grow from the grassroots, to which they subscribe and pay dues. This is one of the things we were discussing in the conference I'm just coming out of. Not political parties that will discourage any money back that can come and take the party. Political parties that it is the grassroots members that will decide who will go for us and decide to fund the person. You see, up till now, from about 1979 and so on and so forth, till today, it is money bags that set up political parties, get it registered with INEC, and dictate what happens. We need to get back to setting up political parties where that have membership, meaning financial members that are contributing and that are meeting. Dr. Jibo Ibrahim said earlier today that they meet every week. That's what political parties used to be. Meet in the ward level every week. Now, when you do have that, parties that meet every week, discuss what is happening in governance, bring up issues, and then constantly are in touch with the person whom they put in power. Right now, we are not the ones who put a lot of people in power. They rigged their way through, or bought their way through, or shot their way through to power. So you can't call them to order. You cannot call them to order. Now, so when we get to a point where we are the ones that recommended people for office, paid what needs to be paid, rather than we collecting money from them, we are the ones that contributed for them to go and buy form. When we get to that point, honestly, within a few years, as I said, this system will be transformed. So networking, very important. Active engagement as card-carrying members of political parties, very important. Because a lot of people who are engaged in civil society, when you go to court to fight over a rigged election, the first question they will ask you in court is your local standing. Which one be your own? Because you are not a card-carrying member of a political party. So it means we definitely need to have people who are card-carrying members of political parties in order to eventually change this system. And we need to organize that soon, very quickly. Because where we are headed, I mean, they say, if you do not change your course, you will end up where you are headed. And where we are headed now is destruction. And I tell people that the longer it takes for this system to crash, the more devastating the crash will be. Absolutely. The longer it takes for the system to crash, the more devastating the crash will be. So, and if we do not work towards changing the system by design, by deliberate design, the system will change upon us. The change will happen upon us by default. Because an unjust system such as we have today cannot sustain. Nature cannot allow a situation whereby a predator or a set of predators continue to devour the people recklessly ad infinitum, continuously. No, what is going to happen is that because nature is about balance, a lot of balance, what's going to happen is that nature will go and take away the predator in order to restore balance. If you look at the way nature works, you go and burn a place and destroy a place, before you know it, nature has rejuvenated the place. So if the predators continue this devastation, using the title of my book that you have, if the locusts continue to, I don't know if you have the new one, which is more years eaten by the locust. I believe you have the old one, the earlier one.
Yeah.
Okay, there is, check on Amazon. There's
I'll check
one
it.
called
I'll check it.
Nigeria, More Years Eaten by the Locusts. That's 2022 book. Now, if the locusts continue to devour the society like this, then it's going to crash, and it's in a very devastating way, and it may not be long from now. For many years, may have been warning, the revenge of the poor is at the corner. It appears as if nothing is happening, but when it does happen, none of us is safe. Therefore, you and I, or those who belong to the middle class, as it were, we have to be deliberate in working towards changing the system before the change happens on us. It will involve some risk. I mean, the part who told me not want to just set up a shadow team, a shadow government, just
That's going to be my
checkmate,
follow-up question. Yeah.
to checkmate the government, and then they sue him to court to stop him.
So do you
Which kind
support
of
that, the shadow government? That's going to be my follow-up question. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think we need more of that?
we need many more of that? I mean, we need many shadow governments. I mean, we need people who can say enough of this nonsense. We need to raise up people. I mean, shadow government, they have no police, they have no army, they have nothing. It is just to checkmate, to complain, to look at the policies of government, to look at the actions of government, to even look at the manifesto of the party in power, and see to what extent are they living by their manifesto, to what extent are they living by their promises. So it is, I mean, shadow government, it means exactly what it says. A shadow is almost like a mirror to say, look at you. You promised us you will do this, you will do this. So the whole idea is to do that critical observation of government in a very organized manner, so that, okay, you are to mirror or shadow the finance ministry or the finance minister. So whatever the finance minister is doing, you are daily studying, and that is your own portfolio. You are daily looking at what the finance minister is doing. Then, John, you are the one to shadow the Ministry of Defense, so that you will have all the information. You find a way of having all the information, and you are able to challenge them, bumper to bumper. You bring the fire of bring their feet to the fire of democracy. Oh, you are in charge of agriculture. You are in charge of aviation. So that what that does is, rather than all of us criticizing everything, all of us complaining about everything, it means that this individual is to focus on checking government in the area of aviation. This other individual is to check government in the area of agriculture. This one is to check the budget system of the government. And opposition will be more effective that way. So I see that it's a wonderful idea, especially as we're in the system that we're on now. And I can't understand why a government that calls itself democratic will say that having a such a critical outfit like shadow government, is it just the word government? You can just call it shadow team, shadow team. In fact, what I saw today was that it was called shadow team, so that if the issue of government is confusing the people because they are not educated, then let's use some other word. But we all have a right of freedom of association, freedom of expression, to critique what is happening. If for those in power and the sycophants around them, if this is the best they think Nigeria can have, some of us believe that no, Nigerians deserve a lot better than this.
Yeah. My final question to you is more of a solution kind of thing. Now, people have said that after independence, we will run a confederal kind of system of government, parliamentary in nature. Now, I'm trying to look at solutions now, So do you think, I mean, like you said, some leaders are ethnically based, Hausa, Fulani, TV, Yoruba, Igbo. Now you have a president from the north. It brings people all over from the north alone. He's an ethnic jingoist. Now in recent time, in the southwestern leader is replicating the same thing. So Possibly, if we have somebody from the eastern region, the probably replicator. So it's almost a tribal, turn by turn Nigeria limited kind of thing. So, but looking forward to, because like you said, the cuckoo will crumble eventually when we don't know how, we don't know it will be. If there's hunger and inconsistency and there's bad governance. So, my question really is that do you think we should operate a parliamentary system of government? One. Two, if we are so ethnically based, is it a must we have to stay together as a nation? The people that have said, look, we're straight bedfellows have an issue that maybe if everybody goes on their own, or some have even said there's strength in diversity, that if we're running a confederal system of government, like it was during the Awolowo Azikiwe era, regions were working at their own pace, there was healthy rivalry and what have you. So, constitutionally speaking, should we go on with the presidential system of government? Go back to what we were post and pre-independence, or maybe to attend to Israel? What's your take on that, sir? That's the last question, sir.
I mean, as you know, we started from the 1963 Republic. It was a parliamentary system, and it appeared to have worked well, but some overzealous young majors got in the way and carried out the 1966 coup, and here is where we were. And with the military coming, they needed to have a grip on the entire country, and so they brought a what was really, I mean, with Iransi, what was really like a unitary system. And then with the attempt to bring back some kind of federalism, unfortunately, we're just pretending it's a pretensions to federalism. This is not federal structure. Federal structure is as operates in the United States. In recent times, didn't we have a situation where Texas was threatening to pull out of the United States if this guy, if these people
California,
but to pull out of, I mean, if you guys misbehave, because of their power as a region, because of their power as a state. You see, in the United States, it is the states that came together to make United States. In Nigeria's case, it is the federation that is creating states. That is the dilemma that we have. That the head of state under the military will wake up one day and say, I have created these states. So it is not organic. However, I am one of those who believe very strongly that, yeah, parliamentary may be desirable, but that the fundamental problem today is not the system. The fundamental problem today is that we have a bunch of rogues who have seized the reins of power and snatched it, and we are suffering under them. It is not about the system. Yes, perhaps parliamentary system would have been better. However, if you have, like I keep quoting Proverbs chapter 29, verse 2, where the righteous are empowered, the people rejoice, whatever the system of governance may be. I hope you know that right now there are parts of the world that are running monarchy, that are running some kind of benevolent dictatorship, and they are making a lot of progress. China is not a proper democracy. Dubai, I'm not aware that Dubai has democracy and all those kind of things. And they are running very well because there is a commitment among the leaders to the nation and not just to their pockets. What we have in this country, like I said, are a bunch of self-serving people that have taken the reins of power at all levels, from the world level to the national level. And we need to deal with that. We need to deal with the character of leadership in Nigeria before we even start talking about what system do we run. We need to start to discuss the character. Some people argue that, oh, it is the system that produced such. But I argue that actually, when you do have the right kind of people, they will help us arrive at the right kind of system. It is human beings that evolve, that help systems to evolve. So a lot of countries developed in the world that have become developed now, they developed under monarchies, under imperial system. But then those people had commitments to their country. What we have today is a situation where somebody is a local government chairman in some poor local government area and takes literally 50-60% of the resources of that local government to go and buy a house in London. Somebody is a governor of a poor state and takes 50-60-70% of the resources of that state to buy houses in California and elsewhere. So there is no commitment to this country. I mean, I have said it long ago to say, look, you want to change Nigeria, then we need to make laws that you cannot be Minister of Education and your children are schooling overseas. You cannot be Minister of Health and you are having your health check and your wife and children having their health check outside this country. I mean, by the time you have a situation where Nigerian ministers, their children are attending public schools in Nigeria, give it 2 years and public schools will be revamped in this country. By the time you have a situation where Nigerian public servants are all having their health treatment in this country, the national hospital or our teaching hospitals will be revamped overnight. So there is something called enlightened self-interest. What we have is that the system is configured in such a way that they can get away from it. They can get away from any consequence of neglecting the infrastructures of society and taking care of themselves. Unfortunately, where they are going to put the resources, up till now, we are still harvesting some of the resources hidden away by Abacha after 20 how many years. It means that many of them will die, put us in debt, and put the money away for places where they are already rich to enjoy that. So let me conclude by saying it is the integrity of leaders. It is the quality of human beings that are going into leadership that we must immediately check. Then we will look at the system, because I believe that if we have a bunch of good leaders, just a collection of good leaders from across this country, they can unite our people. Look, I ask you, don't you have friends from across the country?
Oh, I
and
do.
If you check, some of your best friends may not be from your part of the country.
But they are Easterners, actually.
Yes, yeah, but they may not be from your part of the country, meaning that when it comes to our personal relationships, we know the truth. Absolutely. We know that the people from my place are not the best human beings in the world, and that the people from the other side are not the worst human beings from the world. We know. But when it comes to politics and sharing booty, then we start fighting over it like people in the jungle. So when governance becomes service rather than exploitation of the people, then people will now have this national vision. But as long as governance in Nigeria is sharing of booty, then of course the fact that you have taken more share than me begins to cause war in this. Then we make our people fight for no reason, because our people have been told that the reason why I'm not getting a large share of the national cake is because of that Igbo man or that Yoruba man or that Tiv man. And it's all false, because when they are sharing the booty from the various overinflated contracts that they have, they don't think of tribes.
No ethnicity.
So, there's no ethnicity there. But when they think that they are being cheated, when they think that when they want political positions and so on and so forth, they run back to their tribes. They are the ones that are causing this lack of unity. This lack of unity is actually not organic. It is contrived, because having related for over 100 years, Haba, over 100 years of relating, and before the British, we were relating across board. After all these years, we should begin to see ourselves as brothers and sisters. There is no market where yam is made cheaper for the Igbo man or the Tiv man or the whatever. We are all in it together today. So those of our brothers who are doing a Milocon 2 years ago, well, we are suffering it together, because right now everyone is crying about the hunger in the land.
Wow, thank you so much. You've spoken so well. Reverend Father George Ehusani, thank you for coming to Atlanta Discuss. We won't leave you alone. Don't worry, we'll be calling you once in a while. I know you're very, very, very busy. Thank you for all you do. And to all our viewers in the 7 continents of the world, strategically Africa, most especially Nigeria, state of the nation, you've heard from the Reverend Father. I said it. things should be done on merit. Tribalism brings us back. This turn by turn Nigeria Limited must stop. It doesn't matter where the leader comes from. If Abia State is producing 50 of the best and educated Nigerians at any time, we should put those 50 forward. We shouldn't say by fire, by force, there has to be a spread. That spread has killed us. That lack of merit has killed us. So that's where we are. Well, nothing lasts forever. The cookie will crumble one day. We can't even sustain so many things. The debt is almost unbearable right now. So the citizens have to be active. There's failure of leadership, but everybody has a role to play, not just the government people. If you have bribed the policeman, if you have been involved in anything illicit, direct or indirectly, you're part of the problem. If you are a man of God that collects stolen money from people in government or that works in a bank, you're part of the problem. If you're a bad example as a father in a house, you are part of the problem. So we all have a role to play. Leadership is not just governmental, it's across board. So we're going to end it there. It's a wrap. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. God
Thank
bless
you very much, and congratulations on all you do. Thank you, the viewers from across the world. God bless you all.
God bless you too, sir. Bye.
Thank you.